when we ran for governor, we had a campaign that was designed to maximize very limited resources against an incumbent who had unlimited resources, really. And you're the incumbent governor. Jim Blanchard was very good at it. He had a very high favorable rating. He had been governor for 8 years. And after 8 years, he still had a high favorable rating. He was very, very strong. He'd been running on the MET program, and he'd been running on a lot of environmental things and a lot of other stuff. Very popular guy, not a lot of negatives. But he also had a problem, and that he was very imperial governor, and that he liked to fly around in his helicopter a lot. We call it the jet copter. He never really got out of Lansing much to get back into the counties. In fact, I was talking to his son the other day, Jay Blanchard. Jay happened to bring up, he said, Dad, he tried to get to come watch me play, and he'd always watch me play ball. He'd always fly the helicopter in. That's how we could get to see him on campus. I said, yeah, we knew that. We took advantage of that. And so we were able to develop a communications campaign to do that. And we developed some very clear visuals. And communications is really an ability to articulate in a very simple way the major thesis of what it is you're trying to articulate. I mean, what we were trying to do in that campaign was take advantage of very limited resources. We could only spend $1 million. Dick DeVos spent $42 million in this last campaign. We spent $1 million, and we beat it and come to. We were the first candidate in 1990 to ever reach the full maximum of matching funds. No one had ever done it. Bill Milliken hadn't done it. Bill Lucas hadn't done it. Dick Kelly hadn't done it. We were the first. And you look back on it, that was quite an amazing thing. So it gave us $1 million. We had to run that campaign, primary and general election, to do that. And so our campaign really created a lot of cool stuff out of necessity because we didn't have the money to do the other stuff. So what became populist was populist because we had to do it. Engler stayed in people's homes. So did staff. Well, yeah, that was a populist thing to do, help us contrast with Blanchard, but save the Sun hotel bills. And so we'd have people, up in Antrim County. We'd be up there visiting Antrim County, and we'd be coming in we'd be scheduled to come in at night at 9 o'clock. We'd be getting until 11 o'clock, and we'd call ahead and say we're running late. And he said, "Oh, don't worry about it." So we're really don't worry about it. And so we can't really find. He said, "We're out here by the sidewalk. We'd wave with a flashlight for you." And sure enough, we pulled down the old side road, and there'd be Max or whoever would be out there waving the flashlight for us. We'd come in, and they'd put us up, and we'd be up the next day, and off we'd go. Well, that did a couple things. Number one, it saved us money. It put us in touch with a lot of the activists around the state that we didn't know and who we were going to need to help us. And by doing that, it created an echo chamber in the county or in the township or in the small town that Engler was here, and he's really a good guy because he had this reputation of them sort of being a little aloof, still did all through the administration, even though he was anything but that. But they go, "Oh yeah, that's not him at all. He stayed at our house house." And before long, that became, Engler was staying all over. It's like George Washington slept here, except John Nixon. The bad thing was when you had to sleep with John Engler, because he only had one bed. I had to do that on more than one occasion. So that got to be a little crowded, even though he was much slimmer then. Couldn't do that today. But, we had, and as we went around the state, we drove a lot in the Oldsmobile. That became a symbol. It was the Oldsmobile, sleeping in people's homes, versus Jim Blanchard and the jet copter flying over Michigan when we were driving through Michigan. And we're able to communicate in that very easy visual way. We also came up with something which ultimately became a key part of the strategy near the end. As you'll recall, back in 1990, we had property taxes that were out of sight. I mean, they were out of sight. We had districts that had maxed their millages. We had people who couldn't afford to stay in their homes because their taxes they couldn't pay their property tax bill. We had young families who couldn't buy a house because they couldn't pay their property taxes. And so property taxes became a key part of our campaign. And I'll tell this, and I'll tell it to you, and no one will believe it. We did no polling. Because we knew But we didn't, it made no difference. We knew what our issue was. Our issue was property. We knew that. We were running on cutting property taxes for people in Michigan, put more money back in their pockets, make Michigan stronger, families stronger, and to do that, you need to make a change. And we were going to run that against Jim Blanchard's, let's keep, whatever he was talking, he never really came up with the message. But why should he be reelected? We knew that if we ran a poll, it wasn't going to make any difference because we didn't have enough money. Let's say, for example, as the Voss campaign did or the Granholm campaign did, we didn't have enough money to run a counter ad with someone. If we had attacked and they were to attack us back, we didn't have that money. We had to stay straight and focused on our strategy, and hopefully at the end, our strategy and our message would be stronger and more powerful than their message. And it was. It was. And part of that made that was the nickel. We mentioned it when we announced. It never connected until near about 6 weeks out of the campaign in mid-September. We said, how many nickels did Blanchard's tax cut? So we figured it out. And we did a great ad. Mike Murphy, who was one of the great ad geniuses of our day, was just really getting started. This really helped thrust her into prominence. We came up with an ad. We went down to Lafayette, Coney Island, not just downtown Detroit. You've been down there, great hot dogs, and they've got the guy, it's like right out of the old Saturday Night Live. No Coke, Pepsi. Chips, cheeseburger. So we went in there and we filmed this spot. And the spot went on the air, and it was talking about, Jim Blanchard says he wants to cut property. Here's the Blanchard tax cut. If you cut, I can't remember, but if you save all your nickels from Jim Blanchard's tax cut for a whole year, you'd save enough to buy a great hot dog. Cut to the guy over the counter, Coney Island, $2.25. That's what it amounted to. Handing the chili dog right into the camera with the burners. And that summed up, then the counter was with John Engler, you'll save a lot more nickels. That became part of our driving thing, our driving image. And we got elected. Well, then we had to deliver.